Hi everyone, Susan Storm here. I'm the founder of Psychology Junkie and a certified MBTI practitioner. And today I am very excited to explore the ESFJ personality type with you. Let's go ahead and dive right in. First, let's talk about the ESFJ's preferences. What do those letters actually mean? The E in ESFJ stands for extrovert. So extroverts have energy that flows outwards towards people, actions, and objects in their environment. ESFJs tend to be very responsive to things happening around them and very aware of things happening around them. They are energized when they are interacting with people and experiences in the real world. Even though ESFJs are extroverts, they still need alone time, but too much alone time, too much lack of variety and interaction with the outside world can leave them feeling drained and uninspired. Next, the S in ESFJ stands for sensing. Sensing types tend to approach life with a very grounded, down-to-earth approach. They focus on what they can see, what they can smell, touch, taste through their senses. They trust facts and what's verifiable through their senses. They trust their own lived experiences and rely on those experiences to guide them. This is in contrast to the intuitive type that is more interested in the abstract, more interested in the intangible, the things we can't feel, taste, touch, or sense with our senses. Next, ESFJs are feeling types. Feeling types make decisions from the heart. They focus on personal values or social values to guide them. For ESFJs, they're thinking about what's important for the group. How are people going to feel about this? Next, there's the J, and the J in ESFJ stands for judging. Judging types approach life with a plan. They like to know what's going to happen. They like to have a set schedule or routine. They tend to structure their life so that they have a sense of continuity and stability. This is in contrast to perceiving types that like to have a more exploratory, open-ended approach to life. So now that we've gone over the preferences, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, let's go ahead and dive into the cognitive functions of the ESFJ personality type. The cognitive functions are essentially mental tools that allow us to acquire, use, and process information. There's 8 cognitive functions in total, and we all use all 8 of those cognitive functions, but we have a preference for 4 of them. And within that preference for 4, we have certain ones that are more natural for us, and other ones that can be a little bit more exhausting for us to use. For ESFJs, the dominant function is called Extroverted Feeling, or FE for short. Because this is the dominant function, it feels very natural for them to use. It doesn't take a lot of energy for them to use it. It's as simple as breathing in many cases. And this is the function that tends to get ESFJs in flow. It's the function that tends to feel the most inspiring and energizing for them. So what is extroverted feeling? Extroverted feeling, or F, is all about social connection and social values. Extroverted feeling types tend to naturally notice how other people are feeling, and they work very hard to create an atmosphere of harmony. They're very good at assessing the emotional atmosphere and orchestrating the emotional atmosphere to make sure that the mood is right. They use this sense of harmony or disharmony to decide and determine acceptable or unacceptable behavior. For example, if someone is doing something, maybe being trollish or teasing or mocking in a way that is bringing the whole vibe of the group down, they would consider that unacceptable behavior. If someone is being friendly and cracking jokes and welcoming people, then they would say that's good behavior. And they adopt these social values into themselves as personal values. So many ESFJs have a personal value of being very friendly, of being very welcoming, of being a good host or hostess. And the extroverted feeling type is good at adjusting themselves to the social dynamic around them to make sure that they are not bringing the mood down or creating a glitch in the overall vibe. Carl Jung has an example of this in his book, Psychological Types. If you don't know who Carl Jung is, he is a Swiss analyst who wrote the book Psychological Types. He's really the father of psychological type. He said of extroverted feeling, I may feel moved, for instance, to say that something is beautiful or good, not because I find it beautiful or good from my own subjective feeling about it, but because it is fitting and polite to call it, since a contrary judgment would upset the general feeling situation. A feeling judgment of this kind is not by any means a pretense or a lie. It is simply an act of adjustment. Now, this might be kind of an extreme example. It's not like all ESFJs are out there saying, oh, wow, I love this painting that they absolutely hate or something like that. But what Jung is describing is how extroverted feeling types will adjust their preferences in order to make other people feel good, in order to be encouraging, in order to create that harmony. And they will constantly be aware of what the social values are. Like, it is socially appropriate to compliment at this time. It's socially inappropriate to say these other things. Because of that, extroverted feeling types tend to be very tactful. They tend to be very diplomatic. They tend to be very polite people. They just seem to know how to create a connection with other people, how to get into a vibe. They're the kind of people you walk into a store and you see them and you recognize them, like, hey, it's you, and they get really excited and they might come run, give you a hug, or there's just a very expressive, connecting aura around them. It's something that, for me as an INTJ, I very much struggle to do and admire in others, because I just think, wow, that's a superpower. Now, although ESFJs tend to look very expressive and emotional on the outside, they're actually pretty calm and analytical on the inside. This is because ESFJs have two extroverted functions, and they are extroverted feeling and extroverted intuition. But on the inside, they use introverted sensing and introverted thinking. So these functions are very reflective and very analytical, but their outward functions are very expressive and about connection. So it's very common for ESFJs to be far more analytical and calm and reflective on the inside than they appear on the outside. And as you get to know an ESFJ more and more, you'll see that there's more to them than that really bubbly, expressive, friendly outside appearance. So extroverted feeling is very good at adapting to social cues. So you will see this with extroverted feelings. They tend to run in packs. They tend to have groups of people around them because people are drawn to that charisma, that expressiveness, that friendliness that they bring to a situation. Now, healthy extroverted feeling is extremely friendly. It's very generous. It's very empathetic and very much formed on creating intimacy with another person. Unhealthy extroverted feeling can use all the same qualities of extroverted feeling, but kind of turn it on its head and use it for negative reasons. For example, the mean girls in high school might be extroverted feeling types. They're really good at creating a clique and having a posse of other girls around them, but they might be ostracizing girls who they feel like aren't fitting in, or who don't have the right social values, or who don't subscribe to the same beliefs, or maybe have the same style. Unhealthy extroverted feeling can be very cliquish and gossipy about people. However, this is not the norm. That is unhealthy extroverted feeling, and every cognitive function can have an unhealthy side. I'm definitely not implying that every EFJ that you meet is going to be the mean girl in high school or the mean guy in high school. But I'm saying that this social awareness, this ability to have social influence, to know how to harmonize and orchestrate people's feelings, can be used for good, and it can be used for evil, depending on the person. There's a famous actress called Jennifer Garner, and if you ever watch any of her interviews or her reels that she makes, she's a very expressive, friendly, fun, engaging person. She's always helping out in her community. She's giving care packages to the homeless. She's helping out and volunteering. She's also appearing in movies. She's very amiable, and you just watch her and you immediately feel like you like her. She's an ESFJ famous person that you might be able to watch and be like, oh, that's what an ESFJ looks like. They're very good at connecting. They have a lot of personal stories that they're good at sharing. They're very helpful. They really want to improve their community. If you want to look at an unhealthy ESFJ, you can watch the movie Mean Girls, the original one from 2000 whatever. And Regina George in that movie is an unhealthy ESFJ. She knows how to influence people. She knows how to orchestrate the mood, but it's all for her benefit, not for anyone else's benefit. And she has her group of girls around here, and she is essentially the one setting the stage about what every girl in high school should look like and what they should all be like. And if you aren't like that, you're going to end up in her burn book or her gossip book or whatever it is. She's very cliquey, she's very judgy, but she can act like she's very nice and very friendly and engaging. Another quality about extroverted feeling is that it needs to externally process its emotions. So some people are really good at processing their emotions alone, away from other people, and just getting into their own mind and sorting their feelings out. Extroverted feeling types need an outlet. They need a sounding board in order to understand and clarify their feelings. This is because their introverted processes are sensing and thinking. So when they try to internally process their feelings, they're trying to do that through logic, through their thinking side more than their feeling side, which is like trying to comb your hair with a spoon. It just doesn't really work that well. So many times when ESFJs are going through something emotionally, they will reach out to their friends, they'll reach out to their family to try to vent what they're going through in order to get a sounding board, to get feedback from someone else. Now, when an ESFJ vents out all those feelings, they're not necessarily looking for a bunch of logical advice, but they do want to have their feelings heard, they want to have their feelings validated, and if there is something that doesn't make sense, you can ask an ESFJ, hey, would you like advice on what you're feeling, or do you just need me to listen? Clarify that with them, because some ESFJs I've spoken to actually are looking for input and advice. Many are looking for just a listening ear, someone who can sound their feelings back to them and paraphrase what they're hearing and have their feelings validated. But there are times when an ESFJ wants to know, they'll ask, am I making sense? Does it make sense that I feel this way? Because they want to know, is what I'm feeling normal? That part of extroverted feeling that really values social values and is really good at harmonizing with the environment tends to want to know, is what I'm feeling the same as what other people feel? Is it okay that I feel this way? Am I being really weird and different by being this way? Or is this a common feeling? And they want to know that what they're feeling is some kind of a shared common feeling that other people can relate to. If you can relate to them, they really like to hear that. They're like, okay, good, it's not just me. Other people feel this way, therefore I'm okay. Other ESFJs write their feelings out. If you don't have someone to vent to, someone you're comfortable talking to about your feelings, some ESFJs will write them out or even voice record and listen to them back. And this process of externalize their feelings and then reading them or listening to them again helps them to process them more effectively, because they're using extroverted feeling to process their feelings rather than trying to process their feelings internally with introverted thinking. Next, let's look at the ESFJ's auxiliary function. This is called Introverted Sensing, or SI for short. Introverted Sensing is the support system for extroverted feeling. So you could say that extroverted feeling is the dominant function, the hero of the personality type. Introverted Sensing is the support function, the co-pilot, or the parental role in the situation. So extroverted feeling is very outward focused. It's very expressive. It's very connecting. Introverted sensing is very inward focused. And ESFJs need this inward focus to recharge as well. So what is introverted sensing? Introverted sensing is a subjective impression of something based on one's past experiences with that thing. For example, an ESFJ might look at the color purple and recall these memories of their purple childhood blanket or the purple flowers that their grandmother grew in her garden, and have all these past associations related to the color purple. And therefore, purple has become their favorite color, and they like to use it in everything because it has all these pleasant past associations related to the color. In the same way, they might notice that anytime they smell lemons, they're brought back to a childhood memory of when they sold lemonade on their street corner with their friends. And so they might squeeze lemonade every once in a while to revisit that experience. While everyone might squeeze lemonade because they love lemonade, ESFJs are doing it not just because they like the taste of lemonade, but because they want to re-experience this moment from their past. And one thing you'll notice with all sensing judging types is that they very much enjoy re-experiencing pleasant things from their past. And they try to make rituals, traditions, and routines out of these experiences. These are the people who will show up at Thanksgiving and they'll have the family recipe that's been passed down for generations. They're the people who have specific games that they play or specific movies that they watch every Christmas. Holidays is very much a time where you'll really see that introverted sensing shine. But not everyone is aware of the depth of the ESFJ's feeling related to these memories, related to these rituals and traditions. And so some people kind of brush them off. Oh, there it is. We're going to do this thing. We're going to watch Charlie Brown's Christmas again every Christmas. Can we please do something else? And that can be really frustrating for the ESFJ because these activities are not just standalone activities that they just enjoy for the sake of them. It's connecting them to their past. It's creating a pattern of meaning throughout their life. And so it's really valuable to the ESFJ to have these special rituals and traditions. It gives their life a sense of timelessness, and it helps them to feel like the past it wasn't just one and done and over. It's still living on and on and on. Carl Jung said of introverted sensing, "We could say that introverted sensing transmits an image which does not so much reproduce the object as spread over it the patina of age-old subjective experience and the shimmer of events still unborn. The bare sense impression develops in depth, reaching into the past and future, while extroverted sensation and seizes on the momentary existence of things open to the light of day. So he's contrasting introverted sensing with its opposite, which is extroverted sensing. Extroverted sensing is what sensing perceivers use, SP personality types. And extroverted sensing is very much about grasping the moment and enjoying the moment for what it is and all the facts and details for what they are right now, and then moving on and being fully in the moment at each point in life. Whereas introverted sensing is grasping into the past to find these rich, beautiful, meaningful memories and re-experiencing them in the present, and then creating a rich, beautiful tradition of these experiences into the future. Introverted sensing is also about grounding oneself in the familiar. ESFJs love the familiar. They love what they know. And they tend to get very nostalgic about things from their past and sentimental about things. Many ESFJs have very specific keepsakes that they've kept forever. If there was a favorite childhood toy, they might have a really hard time getting rid of it. Keeping this toy keeps this memory alive for me. If I get rid of the toy, the memory dies and then it's gone. And there's this chapter of my life that starts to gradually fade from my mind. And ESFJs want to keep these things that keep these memories alive in them and keep that meaning, that whimsy or joy alive, and keep the memory clear for them. So many ESFJs keep favorite things and then they pass those on to their children or to their friends' children, and they want to just preserve that sense of meaning, that the whatever feeling that they got from that thing, they want to keep that feeling alive into the future. All right, next let's look at the ESFJ's tertiary function, which is called Extroverted Intuition, or NE for short. The tertiary function has a more childlike, playful energy. It's where the ESFJ can go to relax and just have a little fun and let loose and not feel like it needs to be in charge all the time. Personality Hacker, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they have a podcast which is amazing. You should definitely check it out. It's all about personality types. But they have a way of organizing the cognitive functions where they call the dominant function the driver, the auxiliary function the co-pilot, and the third function is the 10-year-old in the backseat of the car. And so I think that captures really well the playful, energetic quality of the tertiary function. So for ESFJs, that function is Extroverted Intuition, NE. Extroverted Intuition is all about exploring possibilities, finding creative connections, and exploring the unknown. This is the function that ESFJs use when they're in a silly, playful state. They like to brainstorm creative ideas. They like to come up with quirky jokes that they can tell other people. They might creatively find ways to use objects to create new things. I know many ESFJs who will find scraps of materials, or they might find different things at garage sales and turn them into something totally new. They often have a very hands-on creativity where they're combining that pragmatic, grounded, detail-oriented sensing side with the creativity of extroverted intuition to use something that already exists and create something new out of that. For example, I know an ESFJ who takes little pieces of all her children's baby clothes and then she makes a patchwork quilt out of them. And this is something that, it's not like she got this from anyone else. She just was like, I don't want to get rid of these clothes because they all sentimental value to me. And then she thought, I know what I could do. I could just make little patches out of each of these items of clothing and then make this new quilt that they can keep with them as they get older. And I thought that was such an amazing idea, and it's a great example of what introverted sensing and extroverted intuition can do when they work together. My mother-in-law is an ESFJ, and one of the things she's always doing is she's coming up with creative business ideas all the time. She enjoys brainstorming ways that she could earn extra money, and often this involves her using her ability with sewing and crafting to create new things. She really loves just brainstorming ways she could use all her talents to bring in an extra income. And she also really loves science fiction movies or fantasy movies that take her outside of that really grounded, fact-based sensing side and bring her into that magical, wondrous world of extroverted intuition. However, the difference between an ESFJ and a personality type like an ENP is that ESFJs still need that sense of stability. They need that sense of continuity in life. They're very much about routine. They're also, again, their dominant function is all about connecting with other people and forming really strong and powerful relationships and influencing the emotional atmosphere. Whereas for an ENP, their driving dominant function is very much about exploring possibilities and trying new things and seeking after novelty. And ENPs are going to feel very restricted and stifled if they have a consistent routine. Whereas ESFJs need that to feel really comfortable and secure. However, ESFJs like to play in the world of extroverted intuition. It gives them a sense of energy and fun. They just can't stay there for a really long time. They will notice that over time their energy starts to wear out for that, and they need to go back to the world of extroverted feeling and introverted sensing, to their pleasant routines and to their strong relationships with other people. But from time to time, you'll see that extroverted intuition flavor come out in ESFJ. It's often through this funny, quirky humor where they found some interesting relationship between something in the world outside and they're bringing that out in their humor. It can be through brainstorming fun ideas of things they could do. Or it might be that they really just love going to see the latest science fiction movie and then unpacking it later with their friends. What if we lived in a world of aliens? Do you think that aliens exist? Playing with those ideas. Lastly, the ESFJ's inferior function is called Introverted Thinking, or TI for short. Introverted thinking is all about having precision of logic, understanding how something works down to the finest details. It's very interested in organizing and categorizing data and information into these logical categories. For example, someone might see a bee and just say, oh, it's a pollinator, it's a bee. Whereas someone who values introverted thinking might go, oh, what specific type of bee is that? Is that a bumblebee? Is it a honeybee? And want to learn, like, how does this bee work? And understand all the components of the bee. Introverted thinking gives a person a desire to have precision in logic and precision in language, so that when you express yourself, you're being very clear about what you mean. And it's very much about detaching from your emotional bias or the social values, what everyone else thinks, and focusing on what's just purely logical. Now, this is not the ESFJ's strong point. As the inferior function, they tend to feel like they want to use this function well, but it often feels out of reach, or they feel a little awkward or vulnerable when they're trying to use this function, especially publicly. I found that many ESFJs really like using introverted thinking, but on their own, when no one's around to criticize them or spot flaws in what they're doing. Lots of ESFJs love to do little brain teasers on their phones or Sudoku puzzles, and they like to do all this problem solving, but on their own, where they don't feel like they're going to get caught if they mess up. Introverted thinking can also show up in a focus on getting the exact right word to use for something. If they're describing something, they're like, oh, that's not the right word. It needs to be more specific. Introverted thinking is very much about specificity, getting the absolute correct meaning in words and the correct meaning in logic. Sometimes it can result in kind of a analysis paralysis for the ESFJ as they're trying to explain something logically. They can get stuck internally arguing with themselves about what makes the most sense. And it's just more comfortable for the ESFJ to focus on how people feel, how people are responding, and how can I form a connection with them. We often talk about the dominant function as being your preferred hand. It's easy to sign your name with your preferred hand. It comes really naturally to you. You don't have to think that hard about it. But if you were to write your name with your non-preferred hand, you'd have to really concentrate. And then when you look at your signature, it might look really sloppy. The dominant function can feel super easy, it can feel very energizing, you can feel very competent when you are using it, whereas the inferior function, you tend to feel really awkward. You tend to feel like you're not quite sure if you're doing it right, and your results might be sloppier than with the dominant function. So ESFJs often feel a little bit awkward when they're called upon to use introverted thinking, when someone tries to get into a debate with them, when someone needs to be critiqued for their performance, when they have to get really impersonal and just focus on the nitty-gritty logic and precision of a situation. That said, because it's one of their primary functions, it's still a function that they aspire to use well and that they should tap into from time to time. ESFJs can do this by solving brain teasers, by playing games that require some logical analysis, by learning facts and how-tos, and expanding their knowledge about particular subjects, by arguing with their own opinions. One way that an ESFJ can really tap into TI is by saying, here, what are some opinions I have? What's one opinion I have? Writing it down, arguing against that opinion using only logic. Introverted thinking takes every single opinion and argues against it, looking to get down to the very logical root of those opinions to decide whether they still make sense or whether they don't. So doing this now and then, when you're feeling like you have the energy to do it, can be really helpful for you as an ESFJ, because ESFJs can develop this function. All functions are able to be developed. You aren't stuck just having an inferior function that is completely out of reach your entire life. This is a function that can grow and develop as you age and mature, and as you practice it. And so if you want to be better at critical thinking, if you want to be better at avoiding logical fallacies, if you want to feel more confident in the world of debate and argument, then practicing introverted thinking for little bits of time every day can be a really positive experience. Just try not to do it when you're already stressed and exhausted, because then it's just going to make you more stressed and exhausted. So try to get your timing right on that. So now let's look at 5 signs that you are an ESFJ personality type. Sign number 1, socializing energizes you. You feel your soul get filled anytime you can connect with other people. You're an extrovert, so you enjoy people. You enjoy friendly, energizing atmospheres where people are sharing their feelings, they're sharing jokes, they're connecting, they're sharing their life stories. When you feel that positive tie to someone else, that's really energizing for you. Number 2, home is where the heart is for you. ESFJs put a lot of energy into creating a very consistent, stable, meaningful home life. They put a lot of work into making sure that their homes are exactly the way they want. They're very curated to their specific tastes. So every ESFJ I know is really good at home decoration. They're really good at having the perfectly soft throw pillows and throw blankets on their couches. They have candles lit. They like having a home where you walk in and you go, oh, I just don't want to leave here. It feels so cozy. It smells nice. It feels nice. The lighting is just right. They really cultivate their homes. ESFJs need their home base to have just the right atmosphere for them. That sense of having all the details right, of having this cozy, friendly, warm vibe in their home really is satisfying for them. So they'll put a lot of energy into cultivating that in their homes. This doesn't mean that they're necessarily clean all the time. Some ESFJs have very busy lives, or they have really big families, and their homes aren't necessarily spick and span all the time. But, man, spick and span, that isn't a term I've used in a long time. That was like very 90s of me. But anyway, they still care a lot about how their home looks, and they'll still spend a lot of time thinking about how things are organized, what colors they're going to use in the painting, what pictures they're going to put up on the walls. And even if it's not always clean all the time, they've definitely thought about how their house looks and put a lot of energy into getting it just the way they like. Number 3, if you are an ESFJ, you are definitely guided by a sense of should and should not. You grow up instantly reading social cues and looking at social values and following the rules. You're regularly checking in with your conscience to grasp whether you're living in accordance with your values. You should say thank you when someone hands you something to eat. You should tip well when you are at a restaurant. There's all these social rules that are harder for other types to grasp sometimes, but ESFJs just naturally grasp very well. I know so many ESFJs who are very passionate about returning their cart exactly where it needs to be after they go shopping, returning it to the shopping cart stand, and treating people with a sense of propriety and respect. They're guided by the sense of how they should or should not do things, and sometimes this makes it a little hard for them to relax because they're thinking of all the things they should do to take care of other people rather than what they need for themselves. Number 4, you enjoy reminiscing about your favorite memories. That introverted sensing part of you likes to keep the past alive, and that extroverted feeling part of you likes to focus on warm connections and positive relationships you've had with people in the past. But you really enjoy sharing stories from your past. You really enjoy reminiscing about them in detail, whether it's a pleasant memory you had with your grandfather growing up or something funny that happened the other day when you were hanging out with your friend. You enjoy being able to talk about these experiences with other people in depth. Number 5, you tend to wear your heart on your sleeve. As an extroverted feeling type, you really crave emotional transparency. You are interested in amassing emotional data from the world around you, so you really enjoy emotionally transparent relationships with people where there's a sense of freedom in sharing your emotions and sharing your opinions about things. Being able to express your feelings in this transparent, free way is really important to you without fear of judgment or fear of what other people might think or critique. But you also want this from other people. You love it when people have a heart-to-heart conversation with you and really tell you what's going on with their lives. That's just more data for you to learn about the other person. We often talk about people who are interested in data as being these very analytical types, thinking types. INTPs are really interested in amassing data. They like learning how everything works. Well, as an ESFJ, you like amassing data, but as it pertains to people. So just as an introverted thinking dominant type might learn everything about how a computer works, you are interested in learning everything about how the human works and how the humans in your lives work, like what stories shaped who they are, how are they affected by the movies they watch or the experiences they've had. You enjoy learning all the little components and nuts and bolts of how the people in your life work. And you also like being able to share your personality and your feelings and your values with other people in a very open, transparent way. So I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to learn more about ESFJs, ESFJs. I have many more articles on my website. I have over 1,000 articles about the personality types and the Enneagram types on my website, so you can check that out at psychologyjunkie.com. You can also check out my ebook, which is called Discovering You, Unlocking the Power of Personality Type. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you there as well. Thanks so much, everyone, and I'll see you next time.